Red Fireball, and that is that. Echo Fox Tokido in
Look
top
at the traitor.
8. Yeah, the former EG manager,
What?
AJ.
Is there no loyalty in this man?
This man is not bleeding blue. He is now orange.
He has abandoned his country, abandoned his former team.
And look at that cold.
And that is the
Calculation.
sinister heart that is needed to create the Ultra team of Echo Fox.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Born Free here, sponsored by our Street Fighter. Very excited to be here. NCR. I am here with Echo Fox, CoolGreyAJ.
What's up?
The main man, the team manager. How are you?
I'm great. We're in my hometown. I love NCR and I love being in my hometown, so we're good. We're set.
I don't know much about Sacramento. I don't think I'm going to see much of it, to be honest. But I've heard of it, and you know, I'm sure there are some nice things to do here. I heard you can get some good crab. Is that right?
Yeah, crab is all right, but really the one thing you should definitely check out, it's actually just a couple blocks away from the venue, is Squeeze It In.
Squeeze It In.
It's a burger joint, and Squeeze In has these burgers, right, where if you imagine a burger, right, all around it there's just cheese, grilled cheese, and it's hard too, all around the burger. They call that the cheese skirt.
Oh, really?
And then on top of that, the burger itself is just fantastic. So if and when you have time, highly suggest you check it out. Squeeze In.
100%. I'm 100% doing that.
Yeah.
I'm 100% doing that. Do they deliver? Because
I think you might be able to Postmates it, but it's best when you eat it at the actual restaurant.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
I took Rick, the Hotto,
Yeah.
Tasty Steve, and Rip a couple years back, and I still remember the looks on their faces when they, not even when they bit into the burger, but when they saw the burgers come out, because they had no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
They just see this massive burger with this like ridiculous yellow thing hanging off of it, and they're like, "What the hell is that?" Squeeze In.
All right, squeeze in. All right, I'm doing it. All right, so I've got loads of questions for you, actually, because, you know, people know, some people know who you are. So why don't we start with, you know, the fact that you are the Echo Fox, I guess, team manager. Is that your official title?
Yeah.
Can you just tell me a little bit about, so what are your responsibilities in general?
So my responsibilities are effectively what the players' responsibilities are, and for what the majority of people understand is that sponsored players have certain responsibilities they need to adhere to through their sponsors. For instance, if HyperX needed Julio and Momochi to do a shoot for their E-League commercial, then I would be the guy to kind of, you know, make it all happen for them, figure out when and where, and for how long they'd be able to have them for. And it's just rinse, repeat from there. And then on top of that, I'm also tasked with basically structuring the team in a way that kind of brings us the best possible success for the season.
Okay.
So that's why you see us bringing over folks like Momochi, Tokido, all these guys. You know, I want the Echo Fox brand to be in people's daily conversations about esports and the fighting game community. So I want to set us up to be the people to talk about.
Okay, so we're going to get into some of that a little bit more in terms of detail. First off, I want to ask you a couple of things. First of all, CoolGreyAJ, where does the Cool Grey come from?
So for everyone that knows me, shout outs to Mark, man. He was one of the first people to really figure it out without me having to tell him. But CoolGreyAJ comes from my absolute favorite sneaker of all time.
Right.
And those would be the Cool Grey Air Jordan 11s. And because my name is AJ, it just kind of made sense to put that all together. So CoolGreyAJ.
Okay, that makes total sense to me. It's like, I love cryptic names where people have to come up to you and ask you like, what was that? Because people have no idea with mine. They still don't. It's brilliant. So talking of team management, right? So you've been doing it for a while now. You
Yes.
did it with EG.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you, what are some of your, I guess, proudest achievements so far?
Some of my proudest achievements actually came out of Evo. And the two that stand out the most in my head are when Momochi won over Gamer and Infiltration.
Okay.
When he took first that Evo, the stick malfunction fiasco, right? And when Justin won Marvel 3 for the first time.
Oh, okay. Those
two definitely stand out to me because those two wins meant so much to all of us. Momochi's especially because that was something he had wanted for a very long time. He'd wanted an Evo win under his belt, and it was hard, especially after his stick malfunctioned on him, because as a manager, I was afraid where his mindset was. Was he just gonna go on tilt from there, or is he gonna keep his focus and continue to play at a top level? I still very vividly and fondly, frankly, remember me and Choco Blanca jumping out of our seats and running around the aisles. So if anyone was at Evo that year, you'll remember me and Choco running around yelling at people asking, does anyone have a Razer stick? Because we were sponsored by Razer at the time, and we couldn't have them play with any other stick.
I remember.
And fortunately enough, like, there just came a point where I was like, you know what, whatever stick Momochi can play with, just play with it. So Tokido, like, ironically enough, right, future teammate, ended up lending him his stick, and he ended up winning it. And that was definitely one of the craziest, but also one of the proudest moments I've ever had as a manager. Him winning Capcom Cup was another one. But I wanted to touch on Justin's specifically. The months leading up to Evo that year, when Justin won, all he and I ever talked about was him taking the Marvel crown back.
Okay.
And with guys like F-Champ, Chris G, Flocker, all these guys that have already won, like, well, Chris G didn't win at the time, but, he was a threat, right? With all these guys playing at an extremely high level of Marvel, and for him to still pilot the Wolverine Storm Akuma team, like, we were wondering if he was ever going to take that title back. And it was a very emotional time for both he and I when he actually won. Obviously for him, like, he didn't even realize his foot was asleep, gets up, does the barrel roll. But for me, you definitely didn't see it on camera, but I was there with a friend of mine, and the moment Justin won, I was bawling my eyes out.
I bet.
Super emotional time, and definitely one of the proudest moments I've ever had as a manager.
See, now I have like a million questions. I have so many questions because I had originally planned some questions, but now of course I have like a million questions, follow-up questions, which I stored in my head already. The first one was actually not related to Justin; it was related to Momochi. Momochi was was Momochi the first Japanese EG player?
Yeah.
And why was it Momochi? How did that come about?
That actually, and if and when you actually spend time with me, you'll learn a lot of the things that happen behind the scenes, both at EG and at Echo Fox, is really Justin's doing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. EG signing Momochi was Justin's suggestion, and this was at a time where Momochi wasn't too far removed from winning SBO. And Justin recognized him as a Japanese player at the time, was an up-and-comer. When he and Choco signed on to EG, like, no one knew who Momochi was at the time.
Right.
But everyone that followed fighting games, and especially the Japanese scene, definitely knew who he was. And, fortunately, he was someone that was super receptive to really figuring out what it means to be a pro player and how to kind of find that balance between your obligations as a sponsored player and being able to find the time to practice and play at an extremely high level. that guy's a gold mine.
Yeah, he's a genius.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is. Like, and interviewing him was so much fun. So another question that popped into my head almost immediately was, where did you? I mean, I've only ever known you as like manager at EG, and now, and we'll talk about Echo Fox.
Sure.
But before that, like, how did you end up? Because you really started, I guess, in a way, you're pioneering a role, right? So where did you come from? How did you end up in the role? You know, like, what's the backstory there?
I'm extremely humbled when people say stuff like that, like me pioneering a job like this, right? But really, like, I'm one of many within all of esports. Maybe not FGC, but in all of esports. And a lot of credit goes out to guys like Cody Connors, like Scott Ball, who came before me, who were managers of EG before me. These are guys that laid down the foundations for me to be the manager that I am at EG, now at Echo Fox.
Did they mentor you at all? Or did you
They basically set up a lot of different like Google Docs that I was able to just kind of study from.
Okay.
And they set a lot of precedents within Evil Geniuses for me to not necessarily learn from them directly, but learn from my coworkers at the time to kind of figure out what they did before and to kind of emulate the same sort of successes they had.
Okay. Now, I like to jump around my questions because they suddenly occur to me. The Splinter.
Yes.
Right? So you got a little, even on your Twitter, I think, in like, if you look closely at AJ's Twitter, you'll see like a little splinter on his shoulder, I think, from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Which, by the way, in England was called Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles because because Ninja was apparently considered too hardcore for children.
So they were TMHT?
Yeah,
TMNT?
yeah.
Wow.
I think it's different now, but when I was a kid, that's how it started out. We all knew that they were called Ninja Turtles in the US, but in the UK, whatever. I
thought I was a huge fan. I had no idea.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Look it up. I'm telling you. So where does? I mean, I guess it makes sense when you think about it. It's like you've got this team of fighting game players. Is that where it comes from? Like, tell me.
So at the time, I actually don't even remember who suggested it or who came up with it. But at EG, I had 4 North American players. I had Justin, Ricky, Eduardo, Pierre Rog, and K-Brad. So 4 American players, and then the Japanese phenom that is Momochi.
Yeah.
And PPMD also, right?
Yeah.
But primarily the focus was just on like the 4 guys and Momochi because they're the guys that played Street Fighter, right? And this guy just suggested that, like, I don't remember how the conversation went, but they were like, man, those 4 guys must be like the Ninja Turtles, and Momochi must be like Casey Jones or something. So that would make you Master Splinter. And me being a huge Ninja Turtles fan, I absolutely fell in love with that. So kind of just ran with it, and yeah, that's.
And it's stuck.
It's stuck. It's stuck hard.
It's not a bad moniker to have, to be honest. But you were telling me earlier that, because I got it wrong, of course. I said Shredder. You told me there was actually a moment in time where that analogy played out.
Oh,
Can you tell me about that?
That was actually one of the most awesome moments I could have. Like we were talking earlier about one of my proudest moments. Like I want to kick myself because we're at NCR, and this happened at NCR a couple years ago.
Okay.
The NCR that PR Balrog won, what was that? I think it might have been 2014.
Yeah, probably.
Probably, right? Grand Finals was him versus Infiltration.
Okay.
Infiltration was Shredder to me at that tournament because he was the guy that we had to stop as EG. And it felt so symbolic because at that tournament, if you look back at the results, it was EG, Infiltration, EG, EG, EG. It was PR Rog, Infiltration, and I forget how the rest of the 3 finished, but Justin, Ricky, and K-Brad, that was top 5.
Right.
So we want to talk about proud moments. 4 EG players in top 5. pretty ridiculous. But Infiltration, being the incredible player that he is, almost just demolished our dreams. And thank goodness my Donatello, PR Balrog, came through, defeated Shredder after Shredder had already beat the rest of the turtles.
Yeah.
So
it was like a team effort, but in the end,
was.
Donatello came through. Donatello was actually my favorite turtle.
Donatello is my favorite too.
Oh, all right, good. We're good. All right, so I don't know if you've. I feel like maybe you might have already spoken about this or not, but like, what has been the? Maybe you haven't. Maybe what has been the hardest moment of your career so far?
The hardest moment of my career, without question, is the moment I decided to step away from managing Evil Geniuses. That came at an extremely emotional time in my life, because my wife was pregnant, and I was really trying to figure out how I was going to provide for my family. And while I certainly made enough to make ends meet, I didn't want to live paycheck by paycheck. And I wanted to be in a situation where my wife and I were comfortable with how much we were earning in order to bring this baby into our world. And I still get really emotional talking about it, because every single one of my players that I've ever managed, Floe including, I consider to be family. And I don't like to leave family behind. Fortunately enough, they all kind of feel the same way about me, and like we all care for one another, that they won't just like ignore me or stop talking to me, or they're all wonderful, incredible people, and that's why it was so hard for me to leave. It was also difficult because it was honestly a decision. It was kind of like a first world problem almost.
Yeah.
Because I had a choice between one dream job and another dream job. One dream job was obviously managing Evil Geniuses. The other one was to work at Twitch and man their Blizzard Games content.
Okay.
Their community stuff there. Both equally appealing, both equally awesome, and both, I would say, dream jobs. But it was very hard to make a decision between one or the other, because I wasn't going to have the time to do both.
Right.
I had a baby on the way.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, so you had to make the decision for your family. You have two families, essentially, but you had to choose a family.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And I can understand why that would have been emotional. So fast forward, and Echo Fox come knocking at your door. Is that what happened? And
yeah.
And what was it about Echo Fox that made you leave your last position? What is it that excited you about Echo Fox?
Echo Fox came to me, and they presented me with the opportunity to manage a team. They weren't the first ones to approach me with an opportunity. So I came into it with a little bit of skepticism, but I definitely came into it with a little bit more hope, because this came from Justin himself. At the time, Justin had already had the existing deal with Echo Fox, and they asked him who would be a good fit to manage the fighting game team, because at the time, no one knew what the hell they were doing. They were kind of just scheming behind the scenes to what you see now.
Yeah. They had an idea.
They definitely had an idea, and they definitely had dreams and aspirations of becoming huge in the FGC. And I feel like because of those aspirations, I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to make it happen for them, and I wanted to help them get trophies in their trophy case.
Yeah.
Much like I did with EG. And the biggest thing that really drew me to Echo Fox was just how sincere and genuine they were in wanting to create a family type of environment. Those were their words, and as soon as they said it, it wasn't like I immediately was like, oh, family, okay, sign me up, right? Yeah. But the fact that their heart was in the right place was enough for me to at least listen to what they have to offer and what they want to do with this team. And in all honesty, like, they literally just gave me the keys to the car. One of the biggest things that I would say the tipping point was them telling me that I would have full control over the roster of this team.
Oh, okay.
It was something I wasn't able to do with EG, and having the capability of doing that feels extremely rewarding. I brought Choco and Momochi over from EG to Echo Fox, and I signed over JDCR and Saint for Tekken. And being able to bring them along with me feels extremely rewarding, and it feels like I made the right decision, because this is what I had hoped for when I signed on with Echo Fox.
So does Rick Fox get involved? Like, is he extremely passionate about the teams and the players? Does he trust you to make the signings, or do you sort of go out there, decide what you want, and then go talk to him about it? Like, what's that relationship like? I don't know the internal working. I guess I'm asking a little bit about the internal workings of Echo Fox.
I mean, I don't know how much I could really say or tell you, in all honesty, but Rick is definitely super passionate about every single division he has within Echo Fox. In fact, during E-League, Rick actually came out to the studio.
I saw that, yeah,
and hung out with the with the casters there. Our players weren't even there. He just wanted to see what it was about.
Yeah.
And I can tell you in my conversations with him, in my emails with him, my interactions with him, he's someone that really only wants us to be happy and to do well, be happy doing well, right?
Is he like, the purse strings are open, go get whoever you want, or is it still like you have to make a good case for a player? Or
I mean, he kind of understands that I have my own limitations as a person. Right now I have 12 people on my roster. No, 11 or 12 people on my roster. Okay. And I'm only one man to manage those people.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
For as much as I can keep, making things productive for them and accomplish whatever obligations we have as a sponsored team within the brands that we do represent, then why not, right? So that's kind of just the mentality as far as, signing more players.
Yeah. What you need is competition.
We have that.
Yeah, you do. I just feel like there needs to be like this guy who is like, like somebody who played against Rick Fox, like and
Doug Christie.
Right.
I don't know if you get that reference. But,
I don't.
For you guys that follow the NBA, it needs to be Doug Christie.
Okay, well that kind of thing, some sort of rivalry at almost like at a higher level. So let's go back to like day-to-day stuff. What's sort of like one of the most difficult aspects of your job?
One of the most difficult aspects of my job is, I mean, sometimes when I have requests, like appearance requests or whatever from a sponsor, sometimes it's kind of hard to find the right balance between either like just time commitments in general from players. For instance, if HyperX wants Justin Wong to do a photo shoot at X day, but on X day it also happens to be travel time for him to go to a tournament, then I would need to find the proper time for someone like Justin, who travels pretty much like every week at this point. I had to find the right time for him to actually fulfill that obligation, because we want to keep our sponsors happy.
Yeah.
And we want to have them continue to produce content with our guys. Nothing makes me more proud as a manager to see my players' faces on commercials. Yeah. Like when I saw Julio and Momochi on TBS, oh my God. Like my wife, if she was here, she would be able to describe the look on my face. Like I wouldn't be able to, because I felt like time stood still. Yeah. And I felt like my job as a manager was just so it was the right place for me, and I was so proud of those two for being on TV.
Have you I mean, that sounds amazing because you've sort of explained, I mean, you sort of explained basically what most people struggle with, which is like just time
Yeah.
and scheduling
Yeah.
and trying to prioritize and all that sort of stuff, and that's extremely difficult for everybody.
Yep. So basically, I mean, I do it for myself, obviously, like any other person, but I have to do it for 12 other people now too.
Do you ever have you ever had to let a player go?
One. You know who you are, Floe.
That was how long ago was that now?
That was a while ago. That was a long time ago. I honestly can't even remember what year it was.
Yeah.
But that was one of the hardest things I've ever done in general.
What happened?
So what happened there was Floe and I had a couple different conversations about where his career was going as a player. And while he still enjoyed playing fighting games, his drive to be a better player and to compete at an extremely high level just kept dwindling over time. And there just came a point where we just had an amicable split.
Yeah.
But it was hard because I was the one that suggested it. Where I literally was just like, well, you know, if you don't really feel like dedicating a lot of your time to practice or to streaming or to winning tournaments, then I think what's best is for us to move on. And that was definitely extremely hard for me to do.
That does sound difficult, but I think he's doing extremely. He's definitely one of my favorite streamers for sure. And and
there's no question, Floe is my absolute favorite streamer.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I like it when he does YouTube videos as well. I like those too. And bizarrely, he's competing this weekend for the first time.
Yeah, super happy to see him out. He actually competed in Vampire Savior earlier today, but he completely forgot that he signed up for Vampire Savior, which is hilarious to me. Because in my head, I was like, well, if you had a manager, you would have known you signed up for Vampire Savior.
Yeah, you need a manager, Floe. That's what you need. Okay. So I think we've talked a little bit about many of the things that are rewarding. What makes for this is an individual sport, but at the same time, you do see these players kind of helping each other out. And I don't know what the philosophy is at Echo Fox, but I'm sure it's encouraged. So what makes for a good team? Like if you're picking players, do you look for them to complement each other in some way?
Absolutely. There's been a running joke. That in order for you at the time to get signed with EG, you had to be a Justin Wong friend.
Oh.
But I mean, it makes sense to a degree, right? I was talking earlier about how valuable I felt it was to consider that team a family.
Yeah.
Because I mean, who else would you want to help out more than family? And you're absolutely right. Like, as far as an esport goes, I think that fighting games is a little more akin to something like StarCraft 2, where your individual merits are your own. But certain StarCraft teams did learn from one another. Like, StarCraft team houses were a thing. Not that it's a thing for fighting games, predominantly, but I would like for them to share tech with one another. Like, I wouldn't put it past Momochi and Tokido to talk to one another about Akuma and Ken's strengths and weaknesses and the sorts of different character matchups they can learn from one another. Though it's a little more difficult for Justin at this point because he doesn't have the team access, I guess you could say, to PROG, Ricky, and K-Brad, even though they're all still very close and they could all still share tech with one another. It definitely just makes a lot more sense to have like the super secret stuff be within the team.
Yeah, that does make sense. So I guess the number one question that I think a lot of people probably want to ask, people who play, players who are on the cusp of potentially getting signed or players who want to get signed, what do you look for in players? Is it purely results? Is it, what is it? Tell me what it is.
To anyone that followed my relationship with one Kenneth Bradley, you will know that results and winning tournaments is only one of a very many things that I look for in a player. Personality is without question one of them, like a K-Brad.
Yeah.
And I feel like I use him as an example a lot because he is the perfect example of this. He's someone that doesn't win every tournament. He's someone that doesn't even place at all the tournaments, but he's someone you know. He's someone that you understand is there, is super entertaining, and has a pretty sizable fan base. On the flip side of that, you have someone like Punk. Punk is someone that, you know, arguably, if you're not from the East Coast, is someone that came out of nowhere and just took the fighting game community by storm. And he got sponsored almost immediately. But it wasn't because he was just winning. It was also because his personality is just absolutely incredible. Dude is super entertaining, and when he talks about other players, he's only speaking the truth. But that's what makes him so entertaining, right? Like, he tells you the truth that you need to hear. He tells you the truths that hurt, and that's what makes him so incredible to me, right?
Yeah.
So when people ask me, you know, am I gonna get sponsored if I win X, Y, and Z tournaments, right? Probably not, because I've said this to people many times, but winning tournaments is only the most difficult and purest way to build a fan base. And your fan base is what ultimately gets you sponsored.
Okay.
You take a look at Punk. Punk is a great example of this, right? Came out of nowhere, won a few events, has a massive fan base at this point.
Right.
For someone, I mean, comparatively speaking, for someone like him, to come out of nowhere and to just now get sponsored, like, dude has a fan base because he is entertaining on top of being an amazing player. You don't get a lot of that. I feel like there's only certain people that kind of check both of those boxes. One of them being Tokido. Dude is pretty entertaining in his own right. But he is a super incredible player. Infiltration, perfect example also. So those are the types of players that I would say I value the most. The ones that check off all those boxes. If you don't check off any of those boxes or aren't comfortable with putting yourself out there, like a Daigo, for instance, right? He doesn't necessarily like he doesn't have that outgoing personality like a K-Brad does, right? But dude is a legend.
Yeah.
So
that takes 20. Yeah, that takes 20 years.
it takes 20 years. Yeah, absolutely. There's a book about it, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't suggest that.
No, that route's gonna take a while.
But it certainly is possible for you to just be.
Cool. What should players not be doing? Because there's a lot of players. I'm not kidding. I feel like there's a lot of players who do a bunch of stuff and they just don't realize that it's not a good look.
Honestly, it's tunnel visioning into one thing.
Okay.
And what most people like to focus on is to just be a good player and feel like that's all you need to be a sponsored player. You don't just need to be a skilled player. You need to have the capability of creating content. You need to have the capability of building a fan base for yourself, be it through streaming, through interacting with people on social media, or even just, you know, making memorable moments in tournaments. No respect. Did you see?
Yeah.
No respect versus Punk.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was incredible.
Well, it was also because he was called No Respect.
Well, yeah, right. You kind of have to live up to that name, right?
Yeah.
But it's stuff like that keeps your name in people's minds.
Yeah.
Like, No Respect definitely has my attention at this point. I'm not saying I'm going to sponsor him.
No, sure.
But it's moments like that, on top of being an amazing player, that kind of make for this casserole of what it takes to be a sponsored player.
Sure.
It's a lot of different things.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think that's good advice for players out there who want to get sponsored. Do you have advice for people who want to do your job?
Yeah. Swallow your pride. It's very hard for me to say that because working at EG was a long time coming. And I dedicated a lot of my time to freelancing for them and writing content for their website. As I'm sure it's the same for a lot of different industries out there. You have to dedicate a lot of your personal time into really figuring out what you want and kind of pursuing your dream, right? Like I know you're doing a lot of the same thing, right?
Dude, I'm sponsored. No, I'm just sponsored for this, but yeah. I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, in order for you to be successful at something, you have to dedicate a lot of your time to it. And you really just have to swallow that reality. There's a lot of things you're not going to be able to do. There's a lot of things you're going to have to sacrifice. Time is the biggest one out of all of that. And you just have to take what you can.
I agree.
Like there are opportunities out there. There are freelance opportunities out there. And it sucks to kind of have these hopes and aspirations of being what you want to be. Like if you wanted to be in my shoes being paid to manage players, you know, I dedicated a hell of a lot of my time to making sure that Evil Geniuses knew who I was and knew what I was capable of.
Yeah.
And they put me in a position where I took on a lot of different responsibilities. It just goes the same with any other job, right?
It does.
Yeah.
I learned it, just to chime in a little bit, I learned it in the UK, you know, advertising was something that a lot of people wanted to do because it felt glamorous, because we don't have a huge film industry or anything like that.
Yeah.
So advertising is, in a way, it's one of those jobs where it's like everybody wants to do it.
Yeah.
And because everybody wants to do it, the starting out salaries are next to zero. It's like, you want to do it? Well, then you're going to have to, like, we're going to teach you, because you've got nothing to offer us right now. We're going to teach you, you know, we're going to work you hard for this many number of years and then there's going to be a turning point where you know more than everybody else and you're going to have value.
Esports is definitely the same way. There's a lot of people out there that want opportunities within esports, but don't necessarily know what they want to do in this space. But there are a lot of different careers within esports. It's like any other industry. It's like the sports industry. It's like the film industry. There are many different careers you can make within esports. If you want to be like me, you want to manage players, have some management experience. If you want to run an event like a DreamHack or something, then have some event planning experience. There's a lot of different parallels here within, like, you know, the real world and esports.
Yeah.
And it's just up to you to figure out what your actual strengths are and what you're actually capable of doing within your resume, and apply that into something within esports.
Yeah.
And just as an aside, there is a freelance opportunity right now with EchoFox. Check the Twitter, EchoFox GG? EchoFox GG. I think that's what it was. I should know this.
It is.
It is. There is an opportunity within EchoFox to do content creation and to, like, write articles and stuff. And we're not the only ones. Just the other day, I saw other organizations doing the same thing. So there are freelance opportunities out there. It's just up to you. Again, going back to what I said earlier, to swallow your pride and to dedicate that time to getting these organizations to notice who you are and notice how hard you work.
Yeah, it's tough because when you start out in these things like esports, things like Hollywood, things like advertising, anything that feels vaguely glamorous, everyone wants to do it. So, you know,
just as an aside, another aside,
you're gonna say it's not as glamorous as people think.
The management life isn't as glamorous as people think. It's fun for sure. Like I've been to Japan, which is a dream come true or whatever, but it is not glamorous.
No,
it's a lot of hard work.
It never is.
No,
I remember. It's not about me, but I've got stories too. So let's switch gears. Well, we're not really switching gears too much, but we've got E-League, we've got ESL, we've got Red Bull Proving Grounds, we've got Red Bull Kumite, all these things going on outside of, you know, just the Capcom Pro Tour. Many of them considered straight up esports. What are your thoughts on the progression of the FGC and esports, and do you have a sense of where it's going, or do you have a hope of where it's going?
Honestly, I've just kind of been taking everything as it is. Yeah, I kind of have to be as a manager for my players, because if there's an event, if there's a high profile event I need to send my players to, then I'm going to send them to that.
Yeah.
No questions asked. You know, if enough eyes are going to be on it, like a Red Bull Kumite or an E-League or an ESL or something like that, then of course I'm going to send them out to that. I'm not one to really get caught up in this whole like grassroots versus esports argument.
Yeah.
Because it's a moot point as a manager of Echo Fox. Like, I'm gonna be sending my players out to these events. Like, what am I gonna tell E-League? No, you can't have Justin, Tokido, Momochi, or Julio. Go find 4 other people. You know, it's national TV for fuck's sake. Like,
Yeah. It's okay. You can swear on my channel.
okay, cool, cool. All right, duly noted.
I think E-League is talking
Yeah,
back a lot.
yeah. As soon as I said E-League, I was like, wait a minute.
You're like, E-League? It's E-League. For flip's sake, it's E-League. But yeah, okay.
But I mean, I'm someone that's been there. Well, it's kind of disingenuous for me to say that I've been there since day one, but I've witnessed the growth of the fighting game community since day one. Like, I was there for B4 and B5. I grew up in Sacramento.
Okay.
And B4 and B5 literally happened about 30 minutes away from here in Folsom. And I can prove myself because Folsom Game Room was in a parking lot, and across the Folsom Game Room from the parking lot was a movie theater. It was a Century Theaters. Look it up. And further past the parking lot was the Folsom Premium Outlets, the factory outlets. And there's a Nike outlet there. So, you know.
That's where you got the cool grays.
Actually, no. I struck out on those hard. But, you know, I definitely know my shit. And I've been around, and I've seen it grow from literally just one dinky arcade to where it's at now. Ballrooms, stadiums, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's incredible.
Yeah.
For you to say otherwise, you'd be stupid. Everything that's been going on within the FGC right now has been nothing short of incredible.
Yeah.
And I want nothing more than to keep it growing.
Yeah.
And to see it grow even further than this. In fact, throughout my career, I've kind of just been, in all honesty, like, I've kind of been working with a chip on my shoulder. Like, at least within our organizations, because if I could take you back to my shoes as manager of Evil Geniuses, you know, I witnessed like the growth and decline of StarCraft 2.
Right.
The growth of League of Legends. The growth of Dota 2. And these were all games and teams that we picked up that ended up getting more shine than our fighting game guys.
Right.
In Evil Geniuses, the fighting game team was the winningest team within that organization.
Okay. Yeah.
And for me to feel like all these guys, the StarCraft guys, I mean, no disrespect to them. Like, I love the hell out of In Control. I love the hell out of Huck. I love the hell out of all of these guys. But for all of them to get that much shine, and for my fighting game guys to just be like, oh, well, you know, thanks for winning Evo. You know, our guys weren't the ones getting these fancy ass splash pages.
Yeah.
These I don't even remember what the URLs were, but they had like special URLs for like player signing announcements and stuff.
Oh my god.
Like, it was ridiculous. Like, when we
Yeah.
signed Huck, like, there was a whole like campaign. It was like it was an ARG, and like and all of StarCraft Reddit was like trying to figure out like all of these different clues. Like, oh my god, who did EG sign for StarCraft? Blah blah blah. You know, all of these teams had all of these ridiculously awesome campaigns, like ad campaigns for them and stuff. Our guys never had that.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted that for them. I don't even remember what we were talking about, but
No, but I mean, you're talking about the future. So basically, what you're saying, what you're saying is you hope the fighting game community gets there.
Exactly. Yeah. To warrant something like that, right?
That, and there'll be what I like about, I mean, the idea of growth, I think, is an amazing thing. The idea of there being, you know, people getting paid and there being more roles for everybody involved and all of that stuff is an amazing thing. I think everybody's keeping their eye on making sure that we try to retain like what we call, I guess, authenticity.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the fighting game community is gonna be anything but authentic. Like,
right? No, I absolutely agree. There's a sentimentality to me that gets concerned about seeing players like the only way I can get to them is, but because like take for example me, right? I can get to players and interview them because I can meet them at open tournaments, right? And like my concern is for the future me's, like they're going to be behind a red, like the only way they're going to see a player is on a red carpet, like
it's funny you mentioned that. It like takes me back to the whole like volunteering my time and freelancing for EG. I've always been a fan first, like still am to this day. And it was very hard for me to approach players at first, like when no one knew who the hell I was. Like, why are you talking to me? Like, I just want to play. I just want to practice. I just want to go play in my pools, whatever. It was very hard for me to do that too. So I definitely feel you.
No, I mean, it's not so much that. It's that if it ever gets to a point where like these guys are, and I'm sure it will. It's just the nature. It just is the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
But there's a sentimentality to me which will be like, oh, it's such a shame that, let's say in 10 years' time, fighting games are like so big that these guys, you don't meet them on the floor in pools anymore.
You'd have to like send an email to their managers and be like, well, when's the time I could set up an appointment in order to interview them?
Or if I want to get like your signature, I have to, stand behind the rope, on the red carpet and like shout at them.
Yeah.
And like there's a part of me which is like, no, the fighting game community, we're all sort of like the same level. I don't care. No respect. I mean,
I feel like it's kind of a necessary evil, though. It's like
I think it is.
I know that even for people that bitch and complain about the growth of esports in the fighting game community, they want this community to grow.
Yeah.
They want it to be better. They want to see more production value, etc., etc. But there are necessary evils that you need to take on in order to get that.
I agree. It's going to happen. Like, if fighting games or esports are ever going to be as big as like the NFL, it's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah. There are going to be sellout moments.
Yeah.
You are going to have your Brett Favre's that like go in these like Wrangler jeans commercials or whatever. Like no, Brett Favre for as amazing a player that he is, with the many fans that he has, no one's gonna look at that commercial and be like, oh my god, I liked Bret Hart because of those Wrangler commercials, right? No, like, I want our guys to get there, but there are gonna be times where your favorite players are going to need to appear in these things, because that's just how it works.
Yeah. All right, so listen, you've been very, very gracious with your time. This has actually been a long time, but it flies when you're having fun. Is there anything, like, I've run out of questions, but is there anything that you want to talk about or you wish I'd asked you?
Honestly, I want to say that none of this would have been possible without the help and support of my wife. Oh. She's the one that really pushed me to pursue this dream and make me realize and help me realize that this is a dream of mine. Previous to this, while I was volunteering for EG, I was in grad school to become a high school English teacher. Oh. I dropped out.
Okay.
Because around the time I probably still am about a semester and a half away from getting my graduate's degree. I dropped out completely because I wanted to pursue this, and an opportunity was there within EG to manage. So the moment that came up, I was out the door.
Yeah.
Because this is something I want. This is something I've wanted, and this is something that is honestly the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life, outside of fathering a child, of course.
Yeah.
But big shout outs to my wife, Valerie. I love you so much.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. This has been an awesome interview.
No problem.
And good luck to the Echo Fox team this weekend.
Thank you.
We'll see what happens. Hopefully Takedo, because he's like my favorite player. Hopefully he wins. But yeah, I think we'll just say goodbye to the folks watching. Bye, guy.